The day was June 28, 1914. The place, Sarajevo in the Austrian province of Bosnia. On that day, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the throne of Austria, and his wife were paying a state visit. The Austrians were parading toward City Hall. Despite the fact that a bomb was thrown, destroying the car behind Franz Ferdinand's and wounding 2 Austrian officers, the couple went on to visit the mayor at City Hall. Then, returning to their open car, they rode through Sarajevo until, at Rudolph Street, several shots were fired. And in minutes, the royal couple was dead. This incident began a war that was to kill almost 10 million fighting men and another 10 million civilians. World War I. There were many underlying causes for World War I. There were international grievances that existed long before the assassination, perhaps as far back as the Franco-Prussian War. By defeating France in 1871, the Kingdom of Prussia had unified a number of small German states and 2 conquered French provinces, Alsace and Lorraine, into a strong new German empire. Now, in 1914, its ruler, or Kaiser, Wilhelm II, was allied with Italy and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. With his well-trained army, Kaiser Wilhelm was a power in world politics, especially awesome when he spoke of winning for Germany a great colonial empire, a place in the sun. To the southeast of the German Empire was the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Unlike powerful Germany, the Austria of 1914 was a relic of the past, a hodgepodge of minority groups that were restless under Austrian rule. Their emperor, Franz Joseph, was especially concerned about the loyalty of his Serbian subjects, people who lived in Austria's Balkan provinces. Many of these Serbs wanted their provinces to secede from Austria, to join the independent kingdom of Serbia next door. Franz Joseph may have wondered, if these Austrian Serbs did try to break away, might they win the support of other nations, like Russia? Russia was the dominant country in Eastern Europe. Its monarch, Tsar Nicholas II, was interested in peace. In 1899, he had organized a disarmament conference at The Hague, Netherlands. Representatives from England, France, Germany, and many other European nations had met, but the results were disappointing. All of Europe kept on building and testing new deadly weapons. Tanks, planes, and Britain introduced a mighty weapon for naval warfare, the Dreadnought-class battleship. 5 years after the disarmament conference in 1905, the Russians fought the Japanese for control of Manchuria and Korea. When the Russians lost with heavy casualties, it was a blow to their pride, and a reason why they shifted their attention to Europe in the years before 1914. Why the leaders of Austria began to fear that Tsar Nicholas might stir up trouble among the restless Serbs of the Balkan Peninsula. Of course, the Austrians could stop the unrest in the south by attacking the Kingdom of Serbia. But if they did, Britain might object. Britain in 1914 was the world's greatest colonial power. Freedom to use all the world's waterways, including those near Serbia and Bosnia, were important to her. To guarantee that freedom, she maintained the world's strongest navy. Unlike Germany and Austria, Britain was democratically governed. And at this point in history, most British voters saw no reason to arm more heavily and get involved in the tangled quarrels of Europe. Many shared the anti-war feelings of a young British correspondent who had covered the Boer War in South Africa and who wrote, "Ah, horrible war, amazing medley of the glorious and the squalid. If modern men of light and leading saw your face closer, simple folk would see it hardly ever." By 1914, this man had become Britain's first Lord of the Admiralty. His name, Winston Churchill. As Churchill and the British people were rejecting the idea of war, another democratic nation was arming itself, France. In 1913, the French people elected a slate of forceful leaders who promised to defend their country's national interests. Their president, Raymond Poincaré. Born in Lorraine, which was taken by Germany after the Franco-Prussian War, Poincaré wanted the captured provinces of Alsace and Lorraine returned to France. He wanted France to be able to defend herself against a Germany that might be planning to dominate all of Europe. And for this reason, he was building his country's army and strengthening France's military alliance with Russia. Poincaré's meeting with Tsar Nicholas in July 1914 was reconfirmation of that alliance. And so, throughout Europe in 1914, the interests of various nations were in opposition to each other. Diplomacy was failing, and it seemed likely that a conflict was near. We have seen where that conflict began. Long before the war, some people suspected that it might occur there. It was predicted by Otto von Bismarck, the first Chancellor of Germany, who warned Europeans, "Some damn foolish thing in the Balkans will start the next war." The Balkan Peninsula, location of Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Albania, Turkey, and Serbia, and the Austrian province of Bosnia, where on June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife were killed. Their assassination was followed by a month of tense diplomatic activity that involved statesmen of every European country. As negotiation proceeded, it hardly seemed to matter that the assassin had been arrested. He was Gavrilo Princip, a Bosnian teenager, member of a Serbian terrorist organization. Princip and several friends had gone to Serbia for training in assassination techniques. They claimed to be avenging the executions of so-called freedom fighters among their people. Though the cause of these young men may have been acceptable to some Serbians, the ministers of the Serbian government carried messages of condolence and regret to the Austrians. But the Austrian press stirred up anti-Serbian sentiments, and the Austrians tried to win German support for a police action against Serbia. The Germans increased the tension by going on maneuvers. Then, a full 25 days after the assassination, Austrian officials ordered Serbia to admit guilt and to punish its terrorists. It seemed impossible that Serbia would accept these conditions, and the world watched its newspapers anxiously as the crisis escalated. Poincaré of France urged Austria to stop threatening. Nicholas of Russia offered to support Serbia. Chancellor Bethmann Hollweg of Germany asked Russia to stay out of the affair. And then, surprisingly, Serbia accepted all but one of the demands in the ultimatum. Imagine the feelings of Wilhelm of Germany as he wrote, "This is more than one could have expected. a great moral success for Vienna. But with it, every reason for war drops away. But the seeds of war had been planted. The Germans wanted to dominate Europe and win their place in the sun. The French people wanted to regain Alsace-Lorraine. The Russians wanted to overcome their feeling of defeat by Japan. Austrians wanted to hold on to their Balkan possessions. Serbia wanted to bring all Serbs under one national government. In the summer of 1914, the Austrian army prepared to fight. Their government rejected Serbia's answer to its ultimatum. And with this telegram from the Austro-Hungarian Minister for Foreign Affairs, declared war on Serbia. Like a chain reaction, Germany, Russia, France, England, all committed themselves to war. For the next 4 years, from the summer of 1914 until November 1918, that war was to drag on. Other countries were to become involved, and one of the original participants was to drop out. The peoples of many nations were to struggle, suffer, brutalize, and be brutalized in a war that changed the world. This was the beginning of World War